Let's go podcasting. Yes, this is another edition of the Between the Tackles podcast. We have a very special edition of the pod today. Manish, talk to me.
Yeah, we're lucky to have a longtime NFL executive, former general manager, and current CBS Sports analyst, Ran Carthon, on the show. A lot to get into around the league, to get his perspective as a former general manager and get his thoughts on who some of the league winners might be at this point in the season.
Might be able to settle some debates between these co-hosts here. I'm looking forward to getting into it with Ran. Super appreciative that he took time to come out of his day to come talk with us. So let's just get into it, man.
All right, let's throw it to ourselves.
Ran, welcome to the podcast. I just want to give a quick thumbnail to kind of go over Ran's resume. I'm going to start actually before Ran was born. Ran's father, Maurice Carthon, a two-time Super Bowl champion fullback for the New York Giants, ran running back for Steve Spurrier and the Florida Gators before he played a few years in the league, and then moved on to scouting and the executive branch, about 20 years of experience. By my math, part of 6 playoff teams, including 1 Super Bowl appearance with the 49ers. Very impressive. I will say, in addition to Rand's current role as a CBS Sports Network analyst, he has one job that's probably the most impressive in my estimation. And this is probably going to be the most important question that I'm going to ask you during this pod, Rand, is given that you did spend 7 years with the 49ers, are you using Kyle Shanahan's playbook to help coach your son's 8-under flag football team?
No, I'm more so using D'Amico Ryan's defense. I'm the defensive coordinator.
Oh, okay.
So I've been coaching 8U flag football for the last year and a half. It's ironically enough, our head coach, and we're here in the Nashville area, our head coach, shout out Marmette Williams. He is a Bay Area guy, so he moved here as well from the Bay Area. So go figure, our team has been the 49ers. So right now we're in travel ball. Our 49ers team has not lost a game in 2 seasons.
Wow. That's awesome.
So our travel team, we got off to a pretty rocky start in the tournament. Got beat 3 games in the tournament, which our kids weren't used to, but we've gone on and ripped off some. We're on a nice little run in terms of 8U. We actually scrimmaged some 10U teams. We actually played 2 or 3 real games with 10U teams, and we went 2-1 against 10U teams. So got some pretty cool little kids, man. So it's been fun.
That's great. Are you more hands-on, intense, or more of a Todd Bowles laid-back type of head coach or defense coordinator?
Nah, it varies, man. It varies, and honestly, it depends on how my kids are listening. So, like, my boys are in tune. My oldest son is really into it. And so, I'm coaching, I'm on the field. And so I play him at corner, and I align him to my side of the field because I could talk him through. Now, I go way too far because I could talk him through splits and this kid can throw, this kid can't throw. This is the only kid they throw to. So if my kids are on point, then usually we're pretty good. So as long as we're winning and we're not letting teams score that shouldn't score, I'm usually pretty happy.
That's great.
Now, is it a pretty aerial game? Like the flag game, it fascinates me because it wasn't around when I was in Pop Warner. Like, is it an aerial game at 8U, or is it a grounded pound, like it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust, like when I played?
Oh no, a lot of teams just only throw the ball. They have, depending on your league and the tournament you're in, there are certain areas of the field that are pass only. So you can't run the ball in certain areas. And even to my son's playing, my daughter plays. My daughter is a senior at high school, at Ravenwood High School. They actually finished ranked, I think it was number 22 in the nation last year.
Wow.
And number 1 in the state of Tennessee. They won 4 straight championships. And so she came in, she enrolled as a sophomore. They won state. And then this year it became a statewide, because it was only a certain portion of the state that had flag football as a varsity sport. And then last year the entire state recognized it, and so they won state last year. So they returned pretty much because it's their league is 7-on-7. So out of the 14 girls that were starters last year, I think they're returning like 11. 10 or 11 girls. So they got it. And my daughter missed the season last year because she tore her ACL and she had been a starter on defense. So she's chomping at the bit, ready to roll. And she's been working with the boys varsity football team the last 2 years. Last year, she signaled plays for the offense. This year, she's charting for the defense. So she's locked in. She's trying to cap off her senior year with another championship.
That's unbelievably cool.
That's great.
So I spend a lot of time in flag football and local high school sports. I'm at our high school football. I'm at every game, sitting there. Sometimes I'm on the field, just kind of watching from there. Then sometimes I'm in the stands, but we got a pretty good team. And, I know you guys are Patriots fans. I don't know who you root for collegiately, but our quarterback, Femi Babalola, he's actually committed to Boston College.
Oh, excellent. Going to go play for Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, so we have a 2-quarterback system. Maverick Chance is one of our quarterbacks. He's committed to play at Navy. And then Femi Babalola, he's committed to play at Boston College.
It's crazy because I went to high school in New Hampshire, and I think there was one D1 commit in the 4 years that I went to high school. And you're telling me that 2 guys at the same position are committed to D1 Preds? That's unbelievably impressive.
No, it's a really good school, man. Good, really good community. We got the former safety Bernard Pollard that played in the league a long time. His son is our starting safety. He's committed to Western Kentucky. We have Jalen Ramsey's nephew, Jeremy, plays receiver in DB. I think he's just a sophomore. We have a ton of Van Jefferson that plays for the Titans. He went to this high school. The Junior Colston, who played linebacker for the Michigan Wolverines on their national championship team, is now with the Chargers. He went to this high school. Graham Barton, who's starting center for the Tampa Bay Bucks, played at Duke. He went to this high school. It's a ton of guys, man. It's
and this is a public school, Ran?
Yeah, it's a public school.
Oh my God. Yeah, I live down in South Carolina, and AJ Green just went to the public school like 5 miles down the road. And there's this thing on local public they literally have red zone for high school football in my town. You could pop on Friday Night Lights at 7 p.m. and they play snippets of every game going on. It's unbelievable.
We do the same thing here. We have a big rivalry because my daughter's high school is called Ravenwood High School. And the area we live in is called Brentwood. So their big rival is Brentwood High School. So they call it the Battle of the Woods. And that game gets about 6,000 people.
Wow.
They show it on TV. They have a full college game day set up with the local TV station come in. They do the whole, helmet Lee Corso situation of who's going to win.
Dude, that's too good.
Our community is so dope, man. We tailgate before all of these games. So a bunch of the dads get together. We put a tailgate together. So school gets out at 2:45. We've already came early, pitched our tents,
Oh
and 3 o'clock we're rolling in with our grills and tents. And it's intense, but it's fun and it's super supportive. And it's one of those communities, like I say, I don't know how old, I know Manisha and I are in the same age range, but it's the community we grew up in, right? Where I get to the football games, I don't see my kids until they're either hungry or, it's too cold or something because they're under the bleachers throwing the football or they're in the back of the track playing football with their friends and everybody's running around and all the parents get together. So it's a really cool environment and sense of community. It reminds me a lot of how I grew up. Every day, school's out, I got a ton of bikes in my front yard because kids are over either playing in my backyard, playing hoops on the side of the yard, or just riding bikes and go-karts up and down the street. So it's a really cool way of living.
Yeah, that's like a hot tub time machine. Well, I don't have that in my neighborhood anymore. Kids are playing video games or they're in organized sports. They're not, like you said, Ran, when we were growing up, you play on the street, you play stickball, you play football on the street. In the snow, we play tackle football on the pavement. Yeah. So a lot different now, but it's great that you've got a place where kids can do that, and you're so involved in your kids' athletic lives to this point. We'll see what if your son ends up winning a Super Bowl like your dad did.
I'm trying to take my family. I'm trying to be like Michael Corleone. I'm trying to take my family legit. I want to get the Carthons out of the game. So we'll see.
Well, where the big boys play in the NFL, there's always news. It's 24/7 cycle, as you're fully aware. Big news on the head coaching front. I know you want to address that, Burge.
Yeah. So New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll was fired this week. Third season in a row, kind of underperformed after winning Coach of the Year in 2022. I was in the camp that he was going to get canned after last season, especially with the Giants having a relatively good draft pick, going to need a quarterback. Thought that might be a time for them to make a change. So I just wanted to get your insight as to where the Giants go from here. Where does Brian Daboll go from here? Does he get a job next year? How does this affect like Jackson Dart and the future of the Giants?
Yeah, so I'm not on the train of firing coaches during the season because I just don't know what that solves. I don't know what that proves. It's not like the interim coach has this magic that's going to magically turn your team around. It kind of almost signals to your team that you're punting on the season. And so to me, it leads to questions in the locker room, depending on the type of locker room you have. Like, are guys going to show up and want to play every week? And, and then you think about, for Jackson Dart, the young quarterback who brought some excitement to the market and to the organization. Now you're setting him back a full year because now he's got to learn a new way of doing things. And so I thought at least, and because you guys said it, he was coach of the year in 2022, had a couple down years, 23, 24. Usually to me, when guys like that have some type of success during their tenure, I think it at least earns them the right to at least be able to finish the season. I kind of felt the same way about Mike McDaniels in his tenure with the Dolphins. I think that's been, everyone talks about it all year long. Is this the week he gets fired? Should he get fired? And I'm like, man, just let the man coach and do his job because you're not getting any closer to the answer by firing him now because you can't hire anybody without running a full cycle. So, it's a tough spot. That's just the nature of our business. My dad always told me, he was like, son, if you work the damn, you'd be fired at least once. And so that was kind of his way. So when I was let go, I was kind of at peace with it just for my knowledge and just me understanding the way the business works. But I think from here, I know one thing for sure. I know the mayors will be prepared and they'll be ready in terms of having a vetted out list of who they should target. I'm sure Joe Shane will have his list along with his one of his top lieutenants, Brandon Brown. Because if you remember, Brandon Brown was a finalist for the Chargers GM job last year, so he kind of had to have a list on deck in terms of the head coaching spot because at that time the Chargers didn't have a head coach. Now I'm pretty sure they knew it was going to be Harbaugh, but he still had to have a list nonetheless. So they'll be ready. But again, I just worry because we put so much stock and so much value into the quarterback position, especially these young guys at the position. It just sets them back a year.
Yeah, and that's actually a great place to leave it, Ran, for kind of where I wanted to pick it up. You see, I think it's the last 6 number 1 overall picks have had a coach fired in their first 2 seasons. You see guys like Caleb Williams, Drake May changing head coaches and offensive coordinators after 1 year in the league. In those 2 cases, it looks like they kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and the synergy works between them and their new OCs. But what are your thoughts on how important that quarterback coach combo is on this podcast? It's kind of the number one beholding that we have is coach quarterback combo. It's a lot of what helps us decide who's number 1 through 5 in our power rankings, where teams stack up. So kind of what is your opinion on that young coach quarterback combo? And are you a fan of getting rid of somebody too early to kind of see if you can catch the synergy kind of right off the bat? Or are you one of those that would rather have the head coach take the stab and see if they could work it out before giving them a short leash?
Well, I'll say this. I come from the Parcells school of thought that you'd rather be a year early than a year late in terms of any move. So, I don't know if that answers part of the question, but my thought process just in terms of the quarterback coach synergy, I don't necessarily look at it from the terms of the head coach quarterback synergy, right? Because sometimes you can have a defensive coach, quote unquote, that he may not be best friends with the quarterback or have a connection because they just don't work together that much. If that makes sense. To me, I'm gonna take the question a different way. When I'm looking at the head coach position, I don't care about your expertise, right? And I'm not gonna say I don't care because that matters on how you're going to put your staff together. But the number one trait for me is, are you a leader of men? Can you stand in front of the room, command a room, and preach a message that people are going to buy into, even when stuff isn't going well? Like, can people buy? First of all, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask because Manisha's on here. Like, can we speak freely? Can I cuss, or is that?
Oh, dude, let it the
Oh,
fuck
yeah.
rip, man.
Go
Okay,
for it, man. Let it rip.
Okay, wait, hang on. Before you continue, Ran, let me just backtrack about a month. We were tracking the number of profanities that Joe had in a 1 hour episode, and it topped off at about 55.
I was
Okay.
rocking at about
I
a
just
swear
want
minute.
to, I mean, I'm not going to get too far out of line, but if we're going to talk football, I want to be able to, spit it real. So, but no, I know when, when I want to have a guy that when he comes in the room, when shit is going bad and it's going bad, he can deliver a message that guys can still buy into. And to me, that doesn't come from an offensive guru or defensive guru. That comes from a leader of men. So that's a school of thought. And to me, from that standpoint, after that, it's like, all right, how can we build this staff? Right. So if you look at, because Joe, you're a Patriots fan. If you look at who Vrabes is, that's what Vrabes is. Vrabes is a leader of men, right? He has a defensive background. And if you know Vrabes, if you've spent 15 minutes talking ball with Vrabes, he has an extensive knowledge in all areas of football. But the number one thing he did was he went and hired the best coordinator he could hire to help Drake May, which was Josh McDaniels, right? And so, I mean, who better to help develop Drake May than Josh McDaniels? But you still have that man in Vrabes that is going to be the leader that is going to deliver and preach a message, right? So to me, that's what I would be looking for if I was a part of an ownership group that was looking to hire a head coach. Is how well does this person lead? What's this person's background in terms of developing players? Because we talk about it in a way now that it's like it's new, right? In terms of player development, like it's not new. Like that's been the premise ever since they created the draft, was to draft a player, develop them, re-sign them, keep them, and just keep them in your building. But even before free agency, there was a free agency, and even after a free agency. So this isn't a new premise, but we speak on it now in today's terms like it's something new. And so, are you a leader of men? Do you understand situational football? That is so critical. And we see that especially now in today's game. How many times do we watch a game and we hear, well, this guy struggled last year with game management and clock management and learning when to use timeouts, and like all of that stuff matters, So leadership, development of players, situational football awareness, like all those things are key in terms of finding who your next head coach is, and not just following trends of, oh, let's go get someone who's the next hotshot offensive coordinator. Because truth be told, some guys are just great coordinators, and there's nothing wrong with that. You could be paid handsomely by being a great coordinator for 20 years. I mean, shit, look at Dick
Josh
LeBeau.
McDaniels. Sorry.
Yeah, Dick LeBeau made a hell of a career,
yeah.
a hell of a life off of being one of the greatest defensive coordinators this game has ever seen. And he was like, hey, this head coaching stuff, I tried it. It wasn't for me. I'm going back to doing what I do best. Monty Kiffin, one of the greatest defensive coordinators the game's ever seen. Like, it's okay to be that. Your next step doesn't always have to be head coach. But it's also, and especially with today's money, if a team offers you, a head coaching position on a 5-year fully guaranteed deal at a head coaching salary, who's going to turn it down? You say, well, I'll take a swing at it. If it doesn't work, I can always go back to being a coordinator. But again, it takes discipline. It takes patience from an ownership group, from a front office, when they're looking for these head coaches to stay away from who guys like Manish say we should be hiring, with his list of names. Here's my hot GM candidates and head coach candidates. So yeah, man, it takes a lot of discipline, but it can be done. You can find them.
Yeah, Ran, I'm really glad you went in that direction, because as you just said, there is a tendency to fall into this trap about, which young offensive coordinator is going to help develop my quarterback fastest or best, when that guy may actually help the quarterback, but he isn't, for whatever reason, capable of leading an entire team. And there's so many different components of it. I always refer back to Todd Bowles, who I covered when he was with the Jets, defensive-minded head coach. You're seeing the best out of Baker Mayfield with Todd Bowles as his head coach. And there have been, a car wash of offensive coordinators under Bowles, but Bowles has been the steadying force for Tampa over these past several years when you've seen Baker play at a level that he hasn't played since, he was at Oklahoma. So I completely agree with that sentiment. I also appreciate the unwarranted and unprovoked jab at me. So I want to turn it around and ask you, if you were the Maras, who would you hire as the next head coach? And then on a broader scale, what one or two coaches who are free agents right now do you think would make a team that's struggling, take that next step forward in this upcoming head coaching cycle?
Joe and Burge, y'all see how much he thinks of me? He doesn't even think I'm gonna be in the next GM cycle to have a
head coaching cycle. Head coaching cycle, not the GM.
It's your future. You don't worry about your future.
Head coaching cycle. Head coach. What head coach would you hire? If you let's just start with the Giants. We talked about the Giants.
What head coach will you hire when you get picked up in the next?
There you go, Joe.
Here's what
Joe Shane is still the general manager of the Giants, so that position is not currently open.
So here's what I'll say. I'll say this: like, for me, my conversation, if I'm Joe Shane, I'm asking the Maras, like, okay, for starters, what are you looking for? What are we looking to accomplish with this next hire? Right. And just in terms of what are we looking for? Because they have history in having Parcells and Coughlin and these championship winning coaches. What pedigree are we looking for? Not in terms of their background or anything like that. Like, what style of person are we looking for? And then I would look and see what is the most important thing. If our most important, person to bring along is Jackson Dart, then we have to look at potentially someone who can either do the job themselves or build a staff that can do the job. And so for me, I would interview as many people as possible, because to me, when you interview as many people as possible, you're not getting you're getting a lot of information, but you're also, to me, one of the most important parts of the interview process, because I did it 2 years ago, is who can put together a staff, right? Who can put together a staff that you can look at and say, wow, this is a well thought out plan. Now, it's easy for me to walk into a room and say, hi, my name is Ran. I'm going to be your next head coach. My offensive coordinator is going to be George Seifert. He's going to call my offense, and Bill Belichick is going to coordinate my defense. Those are the guys I want. And I get those two guys, we're good, right? But can you actually deliver that? Okay, and then the follow-up would be, okay, if you can't get Seifert or you can't get Belichick, then who's next? And if it's, oh, well, no, I'm going to get those guys. Okay, cool. Hypothetically, if you can't get, like, what distinguishes you from the other guys, right? So I'll just throw out some names, like guys that I would consider talking to. And some of these names aren't going to be popular names, so whatever. I would have a conversation with Cliff Kingsbury, because if you go back and you check his track record of developing young quarterbacks, put it up against anybody. He's developed them all. If you remember, he started a walk-on true freshman Baker Mayfield at Texas Tech. He had Caleb Williams. Look at what he did with Kyler Murray playing Call of Duty. He made the Pro Bowl, threw for 4,000 yards and wasn't studying. You know what I mean? Look what he did with a young Jaden Daniels first year. And so it's like, you have those conversations. Talk to him. I would take a swing at Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame and have that conversation.
That's my team. That's my team, dude. Chill.
Conversation with him. And then you can, venture down in the, because there's going to be you're going to hear the names. You're going to hear the Mike McCarthy's, you're going to hear the Nagy's, you're going to hear the Spagnolos, you're going to hear all those names that we've heard. Jeff Hafley is going to be a name that's going to get some interviews. Robert Saleh, he'll get another shot at it this year. And so I would be interested in talking with him to see what staff he could potentially put together, especially monitoring what happens in Miami. If Mike McDaniels is let go, like, can you imagine a pairing of Robert Saleh as your head coach and McDaniels as your coordinator?
Imagine
Because
Saleh
those
with
two
that front seven. Oof.
have a long history of working together.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to me, because Mike McDaniels could have fun with a young quarterback that can move and, got headache man in the backfield and Scatterboo, and so I think that would be. But again, if that's who Saleh would want to be his OC, and that's why I say you talk to as many people as possible and you see who can put together the best staff. Some of the best interviews I've been a part of were guys who had a well thought out plan, right? Where you said, hey, look, I know I'm short on experience in this area. That's why I would covet this guy as my coordinator, with these two guys as my coordinators. And here's why I would want this guy as my coordinator. And, hey, I would bring this guy over as my linebackers coach. But if you look in his background, he's been a coordinator before. So if we lose this coordinator to getting the head coaching job, I have the next coordinator on staff. And you look at how Dan Campbell has done that in his tenure in Detroit, where I can't even remember. I think Anthony Lynn may have been his first coordinator, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He kind of, but that didn't work out. And then he went to Ben Johnson. He had guys already on staff to pass it along. Look at the great job Kelvin Shepard's doing with this defense and the revolving door they've had in the secondary. So I would even talk to Kelvin Shepard. Is he ready right now? Probably not. It's his first year as a coordinator, but still see where he is. And so you can have a running list of saying, like, hey, we talked to this guy a year or so ago. I think that's what happened with McVay. I think the first time he interviewed for a head coaching job, he was like 27 years old. And he interviewed, and people were like, hey, man, I don't know if this guy's ready this year, but, man, in a year from now, he's going to make a really good head coach for somebody.
Rand, I'm going to mention somebody that you didn't mention among some of these potential.
Oh, yeah. No, real quick, I don't mean to cut you off. If I forgot a name, my bad. This is all coming up.
This is a kind of a special circumstance name, a name that everybody knows, highly accomplished in his career, but been out of the league for a few years. Do you think that John Gruden deserves an opportunity somewhere in this upcoming cycle?
I mean, he should be talked to. And I'll say this much. With John Gruden, there's not going to be a person out there that's more ready to coach a football team than John Gruden. Like, I don't know very many people that love football the way John Gruden does. Just from the terms of his preparation. How many times have we seen Coach Gruden be out, but he has his warehouse somewhere where he's watching a ton of tape? Like, I believe all of that. The 4 a.m, I believe that's the only way John Gruden knows how to live, is to get up at 4 a.m, grind tape all day and be excited about it, and pound coffee and, sunflower seeds or whatever it is he does. But I think he will get talked to. Now, the big difference, not difference, that's not the right word, but I think the key for John Gruden is how is he going to mesh with others, right? Because I think that's been a point of contention in everywhere he's been, is how well does Coach Gruden play with others? You know what I mean? Like, can him and Joe Shane get along? Can him and Mr. Mayer get along? Can him and Mr. Tisch get along? How is that going to work out? How many of Gruden's guys is he's going to want to bring in, and how is that going to fit with the current Giants regime? So that's going to always be kind of a deal. It's kind of like how when teams interviewed Coach Belichick, was like, okay, is this going to work, Belichick and these guys, the guys that are already there? You know what I'm saying? So that, I think that would be probably the sticking point for John Gruden.
Do you think Bill Belichick's got a shot at with his relationship with the Mars there in New York? With everything? Think he's done?
I don't know if he's done, because I mean he's one of the GOATs, so I would never say he's done. But I think there's been a rough last couple of years. I'll just say strictly from a PR standpoint.
Yeah.
And everything that's going on around him, and the Mariners kind of run a clean cut operation. And I mean, it's one of those deals, man, where it's unfortunate. But I always, we were talking about this and was like, hey, does this stain Bill Belichick's legacy? And I was like, no chance. And they were like, well, why not? I was like, well, do you remember that Vince Lombardi coached for the Redskins? Nobody remembers that.
Mm-hmm.
You only remember him for the greatness that he achieved in Green Bay. And so that's how I see Coach Belichick. You're going to always remember him for the greatness he achieved in New England.
Ran, I wanted to get your thoughts because you had to go through this as a general manager when you were evaluating Mike Vrabel, which we'll get to in a second. But there's two veteran coaches who I don't know if they're technically on the hot seat, but there's certainly legitimate questions are being raised this year about whether they could or should return to their respective teams. And that's Zach Taylor. He's in his 7th season in Cincinnati. I know he's had to deal with the unfortunate injuries with Joe Burrow, and also Sean McDermott, who's in his 9th season in Buffalo. They haven't made a Super Bowl, whereas obviously the Bengals and Zach Taylor did one year. You've got Josh Allen in his prime. There is a school of thought, and I think it's a valid one to a certain extent, that a coach who's been at a place that long who can't get over the hump is probably not going to get over the hump. Now, there's exceptions to the rule. Bill Cowher lasted a long time before he finally won a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh. You've mentioned Monty Kiffin. I've mentioned John Gruden. Both of those guys worked together after Tony Dungy could not get over the hump in Tampa Bay. And then Gruden comes in, wins a Super Bowl in his first year. So for Buffalo first, Sean McDermott, regular season record, immaculate. Nobody would ever think that he's a poor head coach. But do you think that maybe there needs to be a different voice in Buffalo?
Boo.
Oh.
Whoa.
No, absolutely not. I mean, here's my thing. Where are you going to go? Who are you going to get that's going to come in and be the person to uplift this team? It's not going to be a first-time head coach. He's not going to come in and all of a sudden, have a plan that's going to take Josh Allen to the next step. I mean, we have to understand and realize where Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, the version of Josh Allen that they acquired versus the Superman character that we have now, right? And just his overall development. Now, I don't think – now, listen, I understand the argument. I really do, in terms of just not being able to get over that hump in the playoffs. Like, I totally get it. But in order to have a chance in the playoffs, you have to get there. And he's had the ability to get them there. And it's the same thing in the other scenario you laid out. Like, it's like Zach's situation is a little different because he's been like absolutely crushed by injuries. And truth of the matter is the offense has never been an issue, right? The offense has never been an issue for them. It's been the defense. Can the defense hold up? And I mean, if you go back and you look at that team that they took to the Super Bowl and you look at that offensive line that they put out on the field for that Super Bowl, and the fact that they were one Aaron Donald superhero play away because Jamar Chase had double moved Jalen Ramsey up the far sideline and he was running wide open. Had Joe Burrow had half a second to stand up and be able to deliver the ball, they win that Super Bowl, right? But that offensive line didn't hold up. But I mean, I don't know that anybody from that offensive line that started in the Super Bowl is even in the league right now. So I mean, you think about,
I don't know.
You think about that for a second. And so to me, it's easy to say, oh, it's time to move on from these guys. But my question for the people that always say, hey, let's move on, is like, all right, who's next? And are we guaranteed to have, that success? You mentioned the Coach Dungy, situation where Coach Dungy came in, where he built the team in Tampa, right, and they, for whatever reason, couldn't get over the hump. And then boom, Gruden came in. Well, look what Gruden was. Like, Gruden was a team that was a Tuck rule away. I think that was him. He was the head coach for Tuck rule, right? Was he?
Yep.
The Raiders, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you were a Tuck rule away from going to the Super Bowl. And so they had to trade for John Gruden. It wasn't like John Gruden was just on the street. They had to give up draft picks to get John Gruden over there. And then so he was a proving head coach. So unless there is a head coach that someone's going to allow you to trade for, that you feel can get your team, that has a proven track record to get their team over the hump, then maybe you consider it. But I don't know that the answer is out there to go to these places who are established, who are in win now mode to get you over the hump.
I know a lot of teams that would love to trade for Mike Vrabel, and so let's circle back to that. When you became the general manager, how challenging is it to balance what Vrabel did prior to you arriving? You know, he made the playoffs several years, but he did not make the playoffs the year before you were hired. And then in your year together with him, you guys did not make the playoffs. So when you're deciding, hey, you know what, do I want to move forward with the quarterback? With the head coach that was already here, or do I want to hire my own guy? Even though the guy who's been here, you know, has had some success in the past, how did you evaluate that? And you obviously have spoken very highly of Vrabel and the job that he's done with New England. So you know that he's a good head coach. But in that time period, in the moment, when you're evaluating what the right course of action is moving forward, just how challenging was it for you? And you know, what ultimately led you guys? I know it was not just your decision; it was a joint decision by the organization. But what ultimately led you guys to decide, hey, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction?
Well, I say with Vrabes, there's probably not very many guys in the league I respect more as a head coach than him, for a lot of the aforementioned reasons I said. You can't sit in a meeting room with Mike Vrabel and not come out smarter in terms of football, right? Just because of the way his brain works and the way he sees things and the way he challenges you. You know, when I say you, I'm speaking general terms. And when it comes to football, and you know, I had never met Vrabes until my interview, but he was on that Chiefs team when my dad was the assistant head coach there. So we kind of, you know, and he came up under Belichick. My dad spent all those years with Belichick and Parcells during his Giants and early Patriots days when Parcells was the head coach there. So a lot of our roots and foundation of football came from the same place. So it was an easy language for me to adjust to in terms of coming in, learning, you know, him and how he wanted to do things. And I've always appreciated his identity in football, because I say this all the time. It's cute and it's sexy to play Golden State Warriors football in September when the weather's great and throw the ball all up and down the yard. But come December, when the weather starts to turn and the wind picks up and the rain and the sleet and the snow, you better be able to run the football. And in order to do that, you got to have the right mentality. And that's something that he preaches. And so that's something that I always appreciated about him. And you knew no matter who you put out there on the football field, whether it was the practice squad guy that got called up because you're decimated in injuries, you knew no matter what, they were going to play hard, they were going to be prepared. Right. And we won some games late that first year that we probably shouldn't have won, just because we had guys buying in, playing hard, and just doing everything that he asked them to do. And so, I mean, that was obviously a tough decision. It was tough from a professional level. It was tough from a personal level, because I know there was a lot of, you know, I'll say it, like, there was a lot of bullshit out there about he and I not getting along. Like, that wasn't true. There was never a moment where we didn't get along. And truth be told, my daughter, she's just got home from practice. She's walking through the house. Probably the first few months after Vrabes got let go, like, the screensaver on her phone was a picture of her and Vrabes from pregame, because they had a really close, you know, unique relationship. But you know, like I said, the day I got let go, the very first text message I got was from Vrabes.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And was like, hey man, you know, sorry this happened. Wish you nothing but the best. You know, let me know how I can help you, you know, type of thing. And so, but that's why I respect him the way I do. And I knew him going to New England, I knew he was going to be great, because I knew there was, you know, he had a quarterback, right? He had a quarterback that I really liked. Drake May coming out. I liked him. I was just talking to a scout earlier. I remember watching his freshman tape. I was scouting Josh Downs at the time. And I remember going into the University of North Carolina that year and just watching Josh move around, Then I start watching the quarterback, and I'm like, yo, this kid's accurate as hell. And so it makes you go back, because I'm like, at first I'm like, I don't know who this person is. And so I'm like, why is he not on my list? And you see that, like, okay, he's a freshman. So I was like, oh shit, like North Carolina has one. And so I always, as I'm watching guys, and I kind of show you, I have my notebook here. I don't know if you can see my writing.
Yes.
So
Can I zoom in on that?
I'm already like,
Screenshot.
and so like I make little notes. Like, so next to Josh Downs' name, I wrote, hey, number 10 quarterback, and highlight as a note for myself to kind of go back and watch him. And so but yeah, I mean, you knew he was going to be successful. I mean, every good coach has down years. That's just what it is. This league is built on parity and parity being created. And so you're going to have those down years, and that's just what it is. And so he was able to end up in a great situation for him, and to be working with a guy like Elliott Wolf, who, Elliott's life is personnel. It's always been personnel. You have Elliott Wolf, you have Alonzo Highsmith, you have AJ Highsmith, you have football guys that just live it, breathe it, sleep it, eat it, like all day long. Is their life is about football, watching tape. And Elliott, I don't know how many times we've heard Elliott talk publicly, because that's just not his thing. He'd much rather just be behind the scenes, do his work, and they've done a hell of a job.
I'm really glad that you shared that story about not only Vrabel reaching out to you, but also the relationship that he had with your daughter. Look, you make the decisions in the moment that you think are best. Now, given the benefit of hindsight, is there any level of regret and wondering maybe what could you have guys done together if he stayed in Tennessee?
I mean, honestly, I think that's up for everybody else to decide, because it's one of those deals where he's in a better place for himself and his wife and 2 sons, and I'm in a great situation for myself right now with my family. I haven't, you mentioned my career, almost 2 decades. If you add in my playing career, it's been 2 decades and some change. I've never had, like, I've always taken pride, and Manish, you and I have talked about this over the years. I've always taken pride in being, present and being able to go to parent-teacher conferences and those type of things. But I know there was a certain level of my presence that was lacking at home with not only my wife, but my kids. And so now I'm in a situation where I'm present for my family day to day. I wake up in the morning with my sons. I help get them dressed. I feed them. I walk them to the bus stop. I see them get off on the bus. I'm in the car rider lane with all the moms and dads picking up their kids from school. Yesterday, my wife and I, we picked up our 2 boys, and I think it was 3 or 4 other kids from the school, and took them to a movie after the game. After the game. See, you guys got me still talking about it.
You can't get out of your blood. It's in your blood, buddy.
Cool. So, I mean, this is like I said, this is a unique time. It's like you said, it's never easy, because what we don't talk about enough in the media, we talk about, we hit on Coach Daboll getting fired, right? Because we only see Daboll because he's forward facing. But what about Daboll's kids? And what about his wife? They have to live this too. And so when I got let go, I wasn't concerned about myself, because I was like, hey, look, there'll be another headline coming in 2 or 3 days, and everybody forget about this and we'll move on. But my kids still have to go to school. And we all know kids can be cruel.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be able to have those conversations with your kids and put them in a space where they can still walk through, these school hallways with confidence and their head held high. Because a lot of times, when the way this league works and the way the business of sports works, is a lot of times we're in these communities because these jobs brought us to these communities. So their identity is solely tied to these organizations. And when that's taken away, now you wonder, like, okay, are my kids going to still have their friends? Are their friends going to still be there to support them, being that we're no longer associated with these organizations? So I think that's the part that we forget. And that's another reason why I don't like advocating for, people to lose their jobs. I know, hey, look, I get it. It's great for clicks and content and all of that. I think we're all in that line of business now to get that. But I try to at least think about that from that standpoint, because it is more than just the coach or the front office guy. Like, their families are really involved. And truth be told, us front office guys and the head coaches, they don't see a lot of this. They just don't. Everybody lives in their bubble to kind of protect your mental peace and your time. But your families do. And so if your family sees it, that's how it makes it to you. And so I'm always try to be mindful of what I'm saying about these guys, and just in case their family see it.
In all the years that we've known each other, I've always appreciated your authenticity. I think I told you that after you got the GM job. What I've learned in recent years is that, like, any perceived setback is really just a stepping stone that redirects you to a better path. And this opportunity, this window of time for you, has obviously given you the chance to reconnect with your family, which is extremely important and a big part of life. But I do know that football is in your blood. I know you want to get another opportunity in some capacity, some decision-making capacity. What I find interesting from a media perspective is that head coaches get second opportunities, sometimes third opportunities. The rare guy gets maybe 4 opportunities, whereas front office guys, general managers, typically it's more of a challenge to get that second opportunity. I covered a guy who did get that second opportunity, Mike Tannenbaum, with the Jets, and he went to the Dolphins. Why do you think that it is more challenging from a front office perspective to get a second chance to be in the big chair versus a head coach who, again, gets multiple opportunities routinely?
I think that's an excellent question. And I'll be super honest with you. I don't have the answer. I really don't, because I don't know what the logic is. You mentioned Mike Tannenbaum. I think John Dorsey got a second chance at it. Yeah. Martin Mayhew got a second chance at it. Are some of the names that come, off the top of my head.
Wasn't the Bills been a general manager, GM in the front office of baseball too? So he got an opportunity in 2 separate sports, right?
No, you're thinking
DiBattista, the Browns.
No. He's thinking the Bean from the Oakland A's.
No, I got my crossed. I'm sorry.
Not related, Joe.
Jesus Christ.
Moneyball.
Isn't the Cleveland guy the guy who gave Deshaun Watson a huge contract?
DePodesta was more. He was more of a C-level guy than he was like an actual GM. Per se. So. But no, Manish, that's a great question, because, again, I don't know. And again, in terms of front office, you don't know us until you know us, right? Because, in the coaching ranks, you have a ton of time. There's camera time. Hey, look at offensive coordinator Manish Mehta. He is dialing it up today. And so you have that. And so it's that some of that plays a part in it. Yeah. Us front office guys, you don't know us until Manish puts us in his article that we're GM candidates, right? And then it's, if we get a job, great. And then we're judged on the job we did while we were in there, and that's without understanding all the circumstances or things that may have happened or may not have happened. And so a lot of times, very few guys who are let go with winning records or, championship pedigree, so to speak.
Yeah, this really burns me up. You're not going to say it. I know you're not, and that's fine, but I'm in a position to say it. 2 years is not enough for a head coach, let alone a general manager. And I made this mistake. I was covering the Jets. John Idzik was let go after 2 years. And I remember talking to John at the combine a few years after he was let go, and I apologized to him profusely, because the notion that you can evaluate a general manager properly after 2 drafts, one of which is only played 1 season, one is 2 seasons, and you don't even have a 3rd draft class or a 4th draft class, to me is ludicrous. And I know there's this, we got to win now, we need results now, and there's this sense among ownership throughout the league. You know, it's not just one particular team; it's throughout the league. This lack of patience, and fans don't want to hear patience, so owners kind of cut the cord too early. But a general manager's job is more encompassing than I think most fans understand, and I think frankly most owners understand, because it's not just scouting. Your background, Ran, pro scouting, director of player personnel, director of pro personnel. You touched all different elements of pro free agency, college draft. But then when you get the general manager job, and you can speak to this, it's even more than that. There's so many different elements of being a general manager that are beyond just evaluating a player. But to give a general manager 2 drafts, to me, is ludicrous. It's why did you hire the guy in the first place if you're not going to give him an opportunity? And in retrospect, I feel the way I do about you that I did about the Jets only giving their general manager, John Idzik, only 2 years. You need to have, at least in my mind, 4 drafts. And people will say that's outrageous, but if you talk to enough people in the know in the NFL, they will tell you, unbiased opinion, if you're going to evaluate a talent evaluator, you need to give him more time. And that just doesn't seem to be the case in the NFL now. I don't know, frankly, what it was like in the 80s and the 70s. I think the general managers had longer tenures, but now there's just the people want an easy button, and they want to say, well, you know what? These first couple drafts, we don't like the early returns, so we're going to move on. That's not how you build a winning culture. That's not how you set a foundation. And it's why when you look across the league, you see the same handful of teams that are always struggling, that are always picking in the top 10, because they don't have the patience. They don't have the foresight to give these people who they believed enough in to hire ample time to actually execute their vision. And so that's I'm talking way too long here, but I wanted to ask you, Ran, what the Jets are doing now. They gave their new first-year general manager, Darren Muji, the green light to get rid of 2 all-pro caliber players in Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. Quinnen, who I covered early in his career, I think is one of the most underrated defensive tackles in football. He's in his prime. Sauce Gardner, you can say, maybe he's not an elite cornerback. Maybe he is. Bottom line, he's a very good young player. To be able to move those guys to get first-round draft picks as a first-year general manager, how valuable do you think that is? And what kind of good position has Darren Muji put the Jets in right now?
Well, before I start on the question, Joe and Burge, we'll see how Manish, when he becomes the owner of a team, we'll see if he still feels the same way.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I won't believe it.
Yeah, I don't believe it either.
Wait. When I get the $5 billion to buy a team, I promise you that you will be in the interviewing cycle.
I'm good. I will be. Just hire me as a consultant to help you in the interviewing process. We'll be good. No, I honestly, man, and this was something which is pretty funny that you're even asking me this question, because I was actually thinking about this earlier. I actually have, and I've never met Darren Muji, never spoken to him, but without knowing him, I have so much respect for him being able to make that move, because that is so damn tough in your first year as a GM, because again, you're being judged as a GM. You're being judged on the talent level that you acquire, that you bring to the team, but you're also being judged by wins and losses as well, right? And so one of your premises is not to come in and suck, because you don't want that tied to your name. You want to try to help build as competitive of a team as you can. But even in the sense of when like, okay, like it's going to be one of those years, you're still trying to build and you want to be competitive. Trust me, Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji want to win every single football game they step out on the field. Like, don't ever question that. And it's pretty damn tough when you look out there and you're like, we are a long way away. But how are we got to endure these tough years to ultimately get the benefit on the other side. But not only that, when you know you have two all-pro caliber players on your team that you inherited, and to be able to move on from them, and like that is, man, that is hard as hell. That is a tough decision to make. That is a tough decision to even approach ownership, to approach your head coach. Hey, here's the thought. And I know this is going to sound crazy because think about it. Part of the excitement of Aaron Glenn coming there was you have an all-pro defensive tackle, you have an all-pro corner. Like we have pieces to build around. And now your thought process is like, hey, in order for us to really build, we're going to have to tear this thing all the way down to the studs, right? Because everyone here owns homes or whatever. You buy a home and you may want to renovate here and there, but you're not going to buy that home and tear it down to the studs the moment you get it. Now you'll take your time, hey babe, we're going to redo the kitchen this year. Next year we'll do our bedroom, then we'll do this living room the following year. You're constantly making renovations to the room, but never once are you going to say, hey, we're going to be uncomfortable for this whole first year. We're going to live with your parents in their basement. Us, the kids, the dogs, the cats, the gerbils, everybody, we're going to crowd up in,
Might not survive.
your mom's basement because we're going to rip our house to the studs so we can build up this beautiful structure that we want on there. And so I look at that and I was like, that took balls. And I respect that from him. And I, for one, am excited to see them build it. Because I mean, what a great story that would be. I can, give you guys like last year, the 2024 season. It was a really tough season for me from a personal standpoint. And I can remember reaching out to Brad Holmes. Brad and I, we worked together at the Rams in St. Louis and LA. And I just remember reaching out to Brad and I was like, Brad, like, how did you get through those first couple years in Detroit? Like how did you get through? And he was like, hey man, it was some dark days. It was some dark days. And he was like, and it wasn't easy. And he was like, but it was the belief that we were doing the right things, that we were going to be able to bear the fruit of what we were doing and that we were going about it the right way. We just, it just needed to continue on the path. And that kind of gave me a little piece, you know what I mean? Because I saw what they were building and how he came out on the other side. And it gave me a little piece, like, okay, it can be done. But that's what I would like, caution to Darren Muji, when he sees this is like, you're doing the right thing and you're going to go through some dark days here ahead. However, stay the course, stay the course. And then if you look at, I mean, he has good company around him. You look at a guy like Rick Spielman. If you look at a lot of Rick Spielman's drafts in Minnesota, again, off the top of my head, I want to say he had 3 drafts where he had multiple first-round draft picks. And they built a competitive roster in Minnesota that were a contending playoff team every year. Now they had, different things happen that stopped them from going further. But to have an elder statesman and confidant, in the building with him to help him come up with these strategies, these thoughts, and the execution of it all, like that's key as well. So I mean, I respect the hell out of him for even having the foresight to do it and the willingness to do it. And for everything, I'll say we, and when I say we, I'll say me and Manish, have said about Jets ownership, the fact that they were cool with the plan, because they easily could have said no. Like, we're not moving on from these guys. We have proven commodities here that we know are, all pro level players that we've paid. But they were comfortable with the plan. So I mean, you got to give them their credit as well.
Yeah, I think it's finally one of the, I think the Colts Jets trade there for Sauce and the two. I think that was like one of the first like win-win, like legitimate win-win trades I've seen in like at the deadline recently. The Colts are giving up 2 picks that are probably going to be somewhere between 25 and 32, and the Jets are getting 2 like building block pieces back. They're going to have, I think it's 2 first rounds picks in the next 3 drafts coming up. So as a noted Jets hater, I'm impressed that they have, like you said, the balls to do that. I mean, that's two of their top 3 probably highest jersey selling players besides maybe Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. Like those are 2 fan favorites. Like you said, I think balls and guts is like the great way to like kind of frame that one. You guys got anything else?
Yeah, like I said, that was probably should have said guts. but I did it. So
we buried the lead here. These guys are, as previously mentioned, lifelong Patriot fans, Drake May apologists in some respect. So I do want to ask.
We're not apologizing anymore.
I want to ask you, Rand, a little bit past the midway point of the season. Who is your MVP?
Oh, Jonathan Taylor, and people don't have to like it.
That's a good choice.
I don't care. I'm trust me. I call running back because I played running back. It's God's position. So it is what it is. But no, I think honestly, man, and I don't know anymore what a running back has to do to win any top award other than Offensive Player of the Year, right? And there will be some comments for you guys that say, well, Saquon didn't win it last year. Well, my counter to that would be Saquon walked, so Jonathan Taylor could run.
It's funny. You look at the award. The award goes back to the 50s. Jim Brown won the AP MVP the first 2 years it was given. In the first 20 years, a running back won the award 8 times. In the last 20 years, a running back has only won MVP 3 times, and no one since Adrian Peterson in 2012. So it really has become a de facto quarterback award. I agree with you, Ran. I've been saying from the last, I don't know, the last month or so, month and a half maybe, Jonathan Taylor deserves it. So let me ask you the question a different way. If you take Taylor out of the question and operate under the assumption, rightfully or wrongfully, that the MVP will go to a quarterback, who would that player be?
Calm down, Joe. I see Joe kind of
rising in his seat. I'm just a smiler.
Listen. I'm going to go a different direction, and if I got to pick a quarterback, I have to go with Matthew Stafford right now.
It's like we share a brain.
How long was that?
It's like you and I share a brain, Rand.
I want the transcripts from the call earlier today.
Matthew Stafford is playing at an unbelievable level, especially as a 17-year vet. He's going to be a guy. He's one of those guys. You know how that Manish, since he loves to play basketball and tears every ligament in his body, still playing at his age. It's always that one guy, old guy at the park that can always shoot. May not be able to move as well as he used to, but you get him spot up, kick the ball out to him, he's going to drain it. Matthew Stafford is going to be that guy that can always throw a football. Yep. Like he'll just always be able to flick it and do some cool stuff with it. Just watching him play the other night against the Niners and how he was just in total command. I think it's been special this year. Now, trust me, Drake May isn't far behind. Please believe that. I just think, when I'm thinking of like MVP, and I know it shouldn't be this way, but it's the biases in the mind. Like, to me, is how sustainable is this level of play for Drake May? Is it a one-off? Are we just seeing the 1 year where he plays out of his mind, and next year, he's a 56% completion percentage guy? I hope not. But is that, whereas with Jonathan Taylor, we've seen consistency when he's healthy. With Matthew Stafford, we've seen him be great over a consistent amount of years. And I know it shouldn't be looked at that way, but people don't give the award to running backs. And it shouldn't be that way either. So to hell with them and their thoughts. These are my thoughts.
I could think a couple years back, Christian McCaffrey had a pretty strong case to win it as well, and
he won Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's again, if I think in the grand scheme of things, it'll come down to it'll be between Drake May and hold on one second. I'm making sure my laptop don't die on us.
Drake May and
Dramatic pause.
No, it's going to come down to Drake May and Matthew Stafford will ultimately be in the top three, and Jonathan Taylor will be probably on the outside. He'll win Offensive Player of the Year, then one of those two will be your MVP.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you look at since week 4, Matthew Stafford, 20 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, those are like video game numbers. But to play a little bit devil's advocate here, Drake May's supporting cast is nowhere near throwing to Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. What I thought was interesting, and Burge and Joe, you know this. First 10 games of the season, 6 different players have led the Patriots in receiving, which tells you that they don't really have a bona fide number one. Stephon Diggs obviously has the resume, but he's not the player that he was at the peak of his powers. And comparing him now to Devontae Adams even and Puka Nacua is kind of an unfair fight. So Drake May does have that going for him. But I'm with you, Ran. You watch these Rams games, you watch the way that Matthew Stafford is playing. He's playing every bit like he did 4 or 5 years ago, which is remarkable, considering not only the age, but if you guys remember, before the season started, he was getting injections in his back. People didn't know if he was going to play week 1. And for him to not only play every game this year, but to play at this ridiculously high level says a lot about the year he's having. I agree with you. There's no real wrong answer here, but I just think, if it's going to a quarterback, Matthew Stafford, to me, is the clear choice.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's I agree. And, again, we know us old guys and back injuries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was legitimately touch and go for him. And I heard on the telecast the other night where he was unsure if he was going to be able to play. He wasn't quite sure. And then, boom, he comes out and he lights it up. But you made an excellent point, though, in terms of Drake May's supporting cast. And I think the thing that's been so unique about him is, and I talked about it earlier when I was watching him play as a freshman, is his accuracy and his ball placement and knowing where to go with the football. Like that's really cool to see for a second-year guy, to be able to make that transition, especially in a Josh McDaniels offense that puts a lot on the quarterback. That's one of the many reasons. I know we're not a draft show, but that's one of the many reasons why I like Fernando Mendoza as much as I do, the Indiana quarterback. He has a similar style of play. He's super accurate, excellent ball placement. And man, if you watch his tape at Cal last year, he got his ass kicked a lot. And he stood there in the pocket, knew heat was coming, and delivered the ball, got knocked around on the ground, but he still showed up and competed. And then now he's at an Indiana team that protects him better. He has better weapons. And we see they're top 3, top 4, top 5 team, whatever they are. And they'll be easily in the playoff this year.
Yeah, and I just one more Jonathan Taylor. I watched that early game, the Colts early game on Sunday, and I think it was Germany. And it's so funny because usually when you have like an MVP caliber quarterback, right, when the game gets tight, you put the ball in his and you kind of just let him do his thing. The Colts do that with a running back, dude. Daniel Jones looks like he's in a prize fight with Mike Tyson, bleeding from every orifice on his face. They're like, how the heck are we going to win this game? Tyler Algiers vulturing touchdowns for my sweet Prince Bijan. What are we going to do? Just hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, let him pound the rock and beat him, and that's how they ended up winning that game. I thought that was almost like an MVP, like an early season like MVP moment. Like I was just like, wow. A lot of teams, when they're good, like they send it to their quarterback and they rely on their short passing, quick passing game. This Colts team literally just lines up and runs you over because they know that they have the best running back.
I'm gonna give you the best game and the best reason why he should be the MVP. The Pittsburgh game. They lost that game. because they came out trying to throw the ball, trying to take advantage of a depleted Pittsburgh secondary that they didn't think was able to hold up. They got away from who they are and what they do best, which is turn around and hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. And then now you allow Daniel Jones to use play action and all those things to help him throw the ball downfield. So it's the threat of Jonathan Taylor that now opens up Daniel Jones's game. So to me, that's another feather in the cap of Jonathan Taylor. The one game we take the ball out of his hands and we try to do other things with it, we lose. And then, like you said, the next game where we needed what I call a close the door moment, right? Where we need to score to win the game or to put the game away. You hand him the ball, he takes 183 yards to the house. Night, game over. He's
a special player to watch. The home run, his ability to run between the tackles and also like hit a home run in the fourth quarter. Imagine running 83 yards after taking like 20 carries. Like that would kill me. I'm winded on the couch watching him run.
No, it wouldn't kill you if they were paying you $14 million.
That's true. Maybe I'd be in shape if they were giving me $14 million.
You'd be like, "Yep, I'm good."
I wouldn't look like that. Tell me that though. You guys got anything else? Ran, this has been unbelievable.
No, man, I've enjoyed it.
So I want to get. We've had a pretty significant back and forth in our group chat about where the top 5 teams rank in the NFL right now, and we're in a pretty consensus on the top 3, but we're having a real battle with 4 and 5. So I wanted to pick your brain and see who you got right now as of week 10. Who are your top 5 teams in the NFL right now?
So now I wasn't prepared. Now I have to go.
Oh, yeah, you threw a curveball, huh?
Stumped them.
You got to think on your feet. Come on, Rand.
I got to go listen. I got to see all the standings right now.
So full disclosure, our top 3 that we seem to some kind of the only consensus we can get to on this podcast. We got the Rams 1, Lions 2, Eagles 3. That's the only consensus that we could possibly come to.
I'm a note guy, so hold on. Let me grab my other notebook. So we say Rams 1. Who was 2?
Lions.
Eagles. 3. That's your top 3. So I would imagine that Seahawks are somewhere in the conversation. Colts are somewhere in the conversation. Maybe the Bucks on the outside somewhere looking in. The Pats. I'm just going down my list now. I said the Colts, Broncos. Okay. My list. Thinking about whole teams. I'm going back and forth here. I will put Eagles in there.
Mm-hmm.
I will put Eagles 1.
Oh my Maron.
Oh, Manish.
Eagles over the Rams? Are you kidding me? All right, go ahead. It's your list.
My list. I would go Eagles 1. I would go Rams 2, Colts 3, Seahawks 4, Lions 5.
Okay. All right. You're going to get a text from Brad Holmes. Pissed off at this ridiculous notion that the Lions are 5th.
Well, and,
let me give you my logic. One. I love the Eagles as 1. Ran, your thoughts?
Let me give you my logic. The Eagles have not played a complete football game, but yet they're finding ways to win football games, and they're still the reigning champs. Right? So, I mean, that to me is easy.
Another brilliant football mind on this podcast said that same thing a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Rams 2. I think they're playing great ball. I think they're playing balanced football, complementary football. I think all 3 phases are working together. Love where the offense is. The quiet part about their offense right now is how efficient the run game has been. It hadn't been any monstrous numbers, but they move the ball. They stay ahead of the chains, and now that makes that offense even more dangerous. So I have them at 2 because of that. The Colts, I just think they have a philosophy that is going to allow them to go far in the playoffs right now. And that's what we were just talking about, their ability to run the football. They have 5 bullies up front on the offensive line. And then they have a defense, particularly a defensive front that's built for them to play with the lead and allow them to, get after it. And then they just made the move from Sauce, the move for Sauce. And at some point, you're going to get Mooney Ward back. And so I was looking at it from the standpoint of if these teams matched up, like the Colts could match up with the Rams, right? Just in terms of if both teams are healthy, that would be a good matchup. So I thought about that. And then for me, the reason why I have the Lions 5th, I think the Lions offense is as potent as any of these offensives, just with their ability to run the football, hit the explosives with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, but then just the multiplicity of the passing game. One week it might be the tight end show. The next week it might be J-Mo on the explosives. It might be Amon-Ra St. Brown beating you across the head to death with 12 catches for 138 yards. But I think down the stretch with Dan Campbell taking over his play calling, that's going to be something for us to watch. Just in terms of, because so much of his life has been him being the CEO, him understanding the in-game stuff that's going on. Now he's going to have to be a part of making in-game adjustments for the offense. So let's see how much of a toll that takes on him. But I think if you put all 5 of these teams, if you gave the Eagles a first-round bye and you let these other teams like duke it out or however you would want to do the tournament, like any of these teams could beat the other. In my opinion, I just think where the Bucs are right now, I think their injury situation is really showing up and is really hurting them. We'll see where they are. I think a big key part for them that they're missing is Bucky Irvin. I don't think people realize how big he is for their offense. So
fantasy team's hurting.
Yeah. And the Broncos, man, like I love their defense. I love what Vance is doing with those guys. But I just think Bo Nix's style of play is going to come back and, bite him in the ass later. And then, the Patriots, I love what they're doing. I love everything they stand for, how they're going about it. But I think once you get in the tournament, when all things are equal, when the coaching is equal, I just think, like we talked about right now, they just don't have the perimeter playmakers that are going to scare anybody from rolling up, playing man coverage, and bringing pressure and saying, hey, we dare you to beat us with Mac Hollins and, Diggs and Pop Douglas and, all those guys. I would have loved to have seen them at the deadline go get, Rashid Shaheed or one of those guys that could take the top off, that can keep those safeties honest. I think just right now, safeties, I mean, you saw that one deep ball Mac Hollins got, the safety wasn't even looking over there because he wasn't worried about the threat of Mac Hollins, going deep. And that's no disrespect to Mac Hollins at all. But I just think I just think in the grand scheme of things, their lack of perimeter playmakers and lack of consistency in the running game, when all things are equal, are going to hold them back this year.
Yeah,
But
I think that the Pats also have a serious lack of depth this year too. I feel like there's a couple positions, like key positions like edge, cornerback, safety, cover linebackers. I think they're like 1 or 2 injuries away from being like having guys legitimately signed off like the street playing in games like 3 or 4 days after. Like this, that they are that weak at some of their positions. And I agree. I thought they were going to go out and maybe grab some help at linebacker or some help at running back. But yeah, I'm just glad that they're in the conversation, Ran, after these back-to-back seasons of jumping of.
You're so spoiled.
We are
spoiled.
People. We are spoiled.
So spoiled.
Yeah, I couldn't handle it.
So spoiled. But no, this was a good exercise for me because typically, like, I try to stay away from lists, and that's just the personnel guy in me, just because I know this stuff is so week to week. And that's been like one of my biggest adjustments in the media space is like, who's your MVP candidate this week? And I'm like, well, he had one bad game, so we're going to dismiss the other 10 good games he had. I got to knock him down. So I'm growing in that space. I'm learning.
Yeah, we haven't had the same top 5 once. So we've been doing this exercise for 6 weeks or 7 weeks here, and we haven't had the same top 5 one time. And the only time we've had the same top 2 is the last 2 weeks. It has been the Rams and the Lions. So yeah, a little bit of a reactionary tale on this podcast for sure.
A good exercise for us to get into it with each other.
Look, Manish doesn't need much to get into it with anybody. So
I had no idea.
Learning that.
We'll have to have you on for the MJ versus LeBron debate, but
Oh,
we'll
boy.
save that. We don't have enough time here. But Rand, dude, I like I said before, I can't thank you enough for your time. Sometimes getting a different perspective when we're two fans and more of a writer reporter, it's kind of good to be grounded in somebody who's maybe a little bit more even keel and takes a more measured look at things. So I really appreciate your insight. Really appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you guys inviting me on, man, sharing the space with me. I was going to say, please be careful with your words because there are contingent of people out there who think I don't know shit about it. So, yeah, you might be giving me too much credit according to some, but it's always fun to talk ball with people, man. No matter if we can always agree to disagree. You know what I mean? So I'm the type of person. Listen, one of my personal philosophies is like you don't have to defend right. So 1 + 1 is going to always equal 2. I'm sure Manish has a formula that says it's 3. Like I'm cool.
Absolutely.
Yep, I believe you. I'm not going to argue with you about it. So, all right, man. Yep, great, cool. Keep it moving.
Maybe I have to take that approach at some point.
Ran, really, honestly, I'm just echo Joe's thoughts. Really appreciate you coming on. You're one of the sharpest minds in this business that I've encountered in my 20 years around the NFL. Look forward to hearing more of your thoughts and analysis on CBS Sports Network, and hopefully giving you a platform to explain things in a way that the average fan can digest. And I'm on a personal note, really hopeful that you get another opportunity at some point in the near future in an NFL front office. So any team would be so lucky and fortunate to have you, because again, not only are you one of the sharpest people that I've come across in my time covering the NFL, you're also one of the most genuine, and really thankful that you gave us the time today to talk and share your knowledge.
No, man, I appreciate you boys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
I'll just echo it. Also, I kind of feel like you did with talking with Vrabel. I'm leaving here learning something new. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to myself, as Manish calls me, the Homer of the podcast with the Patriots. So I really appreciate it.
Nah, man, thanks, man. I appreciate you guys.
It happens all the time, but feeling like you're the dumbest person in a room when somebody that smart and knowledgeable comes on is a very comforting feeling, because you feel like you're just being led down a path of NFL football and you're just gaining knowledge along the way. Ran, what a great time, dude. That was so fun.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And I was sitting there just kind of like taking it all in. Like the knowledge that he brought for us, next to none for me.
He's talking trigonometry, and I just got out of algebra. It was just like, I had no idea. So, Manish, good contact. Thank you, sir. All right.
Yeah, Ran's the best. That was a good conversation. Really insightful.
All right, boys. It's a little Easter egg at the end of this episode. Don't tell anybody, but tell actually everybody you effing know. Between the Tackles, going to 2 podcasts a week. So we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you Thursday. Goodbye.